of ground the purpose of the application. Actually, move my mic a little closer too. All right, so essentially Claude Code, let's jump in here to the system. So Claude Code basically allows you to run things. So you can go here, if you have Claude Code installed, I'm just going to give you a quick, before I install it, I'm just going to show you how it works. But Claude, you basically run Claude. And what Claude does is basically gives you the ability to sort of interact with your system through a kind of command line interface, which you see here, and you can chat with it. Now that's a great sort of starting point, but the important thing, I'm assuming you got meetings at capacity. So I guess anyone that joins late is gonna have to watch the video or go to LinkedIn. Sorry about that. I didn't realize I only had 100 participants. So there you go. I guess this was more popular than I thought. All right. Anyway, so for those that are not familiar, you've got Claude, and it's cool. You can things and so on. And so this is sort of the default view that you get. You've got different settings like help that allow you to see some of the things that they can do. The most important tool is this idea of dangerously skip permissions. So a lot of what I'm doing is based on two parts. It's the idea that I can have it automated through this dangerously skip permissions. And the second part is this idea of the stream JSON output. And the stream JSON output allows me to programmatically basically interact with it and have it in a kind of non-interactive mode. So between those two, I was able to create a kind of orchestration component that essentially allows you to create multiple agents that can do various types of activities. Now, for those that are familiar with Roux code, Roux code is really, really cool because you could have this idea of subtask, you could allocate it, you could orchestrate it, and it would kind of run for a while. The drawback to Roux code was it was really expensive. And running these things, and it was two-part. It was sequential in these tasks and subtasks, and you couldn't run multiple versions of Roux code particularly easy. You hypothetically could run multiple VS Code instances, but it just wasn't set up to sort of run in a kind of parallel or concurrent fashion. So once I saw the fact that I could basically run the Claude Code system in a kind of unlimited fashion for extended periods of times, I then thought, well, I like all the benefits of running Roux code because it sort of, well, one, it works, and two, it could run for an extended period of time without me really doing much. So I took it upon myself to actually try to do that. So for those who are following along, I created a test repo here that you can try if you'd like. I'm going to put it in the chat here, but it's RubeNet slash Claude test. And I'll pop that in the chat here for you guys. And this is just basically a simple starting point. I basically pre-installed some of the stuff for you, but you're going to have to install Claude. But I've gone ahead and done some of that. And then I spun up a code space. And I'm using just the browser version today, just because it was easy, and this is similar to what you'd see if you're using code space. So in this case, if you're logged into GitHub, you can go here to code, and you can go to your code spaces, and you go here and create a new code space. I've got one running already, but you'll see a little green button here, and that'll spawn a code space. Okay, once you're in the code space, give it, I don't know, 30 seconds or so, you'll see a README file. The README file here, it gives you the commands. So the first command you're going to want to run is this one. This essentially installs Claude Code. So I've already done that, so I'm not going to bother doing it again. The next command, now the next two commands are kind of optional. You could basically skip this if you want and go right to the third command. This just proves the version, and I currently there's a disconnect actually between the version number and version 40 and in the version which is actually 41. You're getting version 41. I'll fix that later. I didn't want to push an update right before a presentation because I didn't want to spend the presentation debugging potential issues. So, but that doesn't affect the usage. It's just a misnumbering, so don't worry about that. Once you've got that installed, you then can initialize it. So I've already done the initialization, but what the initialization is doing is creating these folders. So you see these folders here. So you've got the claude.md file. the Claude MD file gives it sort of guidance to what needs to and how it needs to run and the different structures and what a test-driven development is, red, green, and so on. So, but once you've got that, you've got a coordination system. The coordination system allows multiple agents to run concurrently and then collaborate with each other. So one agent might be doing research, the other agent might be doing the development, and then another agent might be doing tests. So at the very minimum, what you can do is get an agent to, three agents all collectively working together. And what I noticed when I started doing this kind of multi-agent orchestration is, in comparison, cost aside, the ability to build really quickly became an integral part of the sort of the development flow. What took me hours previously, now it was happening in a fraction of the time because I wasn't bound by the sort of sequential nature of things like root code. I could actually run this in a more structured and optimized way. So in this case, I'm going to give you I'm going to and then we'll dig a little deeper. But basically, take a look at that, and really all you need to do is install the first two components. So again, I've done that. So once it's installed, you can then npx. You can install this also as an npm, meaning if you run it as an npm based install, you can skip the part that says npx. I kind of like the npx because I'm always upgrading it. And npm is good if you're not frequently doing updates. But basically, you see here, I've got this idea of at latest. This basically gives you the latest version. So if I push an update this afternoon, you'll get the most recent version regardless. If you do the npm install, you're kind of stuck with whatever version you installed until you decide to upgrade it. So this is just a nice, easy way to always get the most up-to-date version. So again, once you're installed, you can then go here and grab this command. So I'm just going to go and I'm going to copy that quick. And I'm going to go and I'm going to type it in here. And this is the basic CLI. So in this case, we've got different commands. And like everything, I went a little overboard. But you can see there's tons of different commands here. So we've got the initial setup. And I'm using the roux mode structure, which I cut. Interesting about roux, and this is a kind of a side note. My friends call me Roux for roux, and I have no involvement in roux code other than I'm a fan and did some early work with the Boomerang stuff. But it's just funny that my favorite coding system is actually my nickname. So I figured I'd keep the roux modes and the roux just as an homage to the original roux guys and the fact that my nickname's roux. So I'm using the exact same system. So this is now 100% compatible with both roux and roux modes, and the Claude Flow system. So I'm using the same structure. You've got a coordination environment here. Now there's different options. I haven't enabled it yet, but once you do, you'll see that there's files in here that will start working. Now you also have this area here for the flow and the store. So I debated how to handle the storage. Like I could have done, there's an option for SQLite as well, which we can enable, but I wanted to do the simplest approach possible. And that ended up being just creating a kind of structured JSON file for the memory. So it's essentially just JSON unless you enable the SQL option, which I'll get. That might be a demo for another time. Then you have different modes. So you see here, there's different modes. Again, you're going to have to activate those by running the npx. So we can do npx. I'm going to do /yes, so it just automatically always says yes. And then I'm going to take a look at these modes. So the modes are exactly the same modes we get in roux code. So we have architect, we have autocoder, we have tester, debugger, and these various options, MCP integrations. I haven't done a lot of work in the MCP, but that's probably next week's demo. And this also can integrate directly with autonomous MCPs. This system actually can run as an MCP as well I think it's MCP. MCP. So everything you see in the system can actually run again as an MCP by just starting it and choose ports. So if you want to integrate this with other systems or Claude itself, you can run this directly as an MCP as well. There's a ton of stuff, probably more than we can cover in one call. So now I've got this installed, and we've got this. So I'm gonna go back to the modes. I wanted to keep it simple. So one of the things we can do here is just to get it going, we've got Spark. So if you want to run it, all you need to do is run Spark, and then we can give it a task. Now it will automatically understand the nuance of the task, right? So this task could be in a couple different ways. One, I can just tell it what I want to do. Do this, do this thing, and do it well, or research or whatever, or I can feed it a some research from, let's say, a ChatGPT or Anthropic Claude deep research, and then say go build that thing. So in this case, what I might want to do is do a detailed research. So we could dream up an application, research the latest approach to creating a MCP server. MCP server. Um, Start by using the web search, going to second line, and use the Spark method to to create a plan and implement until complete, and all tests pass. I'm just doing this as an example, right? Now, for more complex ones, I might refer to a folder or a file. In this case, I'm going to say create in slash example. I'm gonna do slash dot examples. This one knows it's sub part. Now I could also invoke this in a subfolder. Sometimes I might want to do that. I'd also suggest possibly making some of these files in your git ignore so it doesn't actually show up later. I didn't bother in this example because I'm in a test environment. So now I'm just going to start it. So you can see here, I'm just going to hit return. Now a couple things are happening. So you can see I got some debugging information. So this is basically saying the mode is running Spark. Here's the tools available to it. Here's the research latest and creating the MCP server and other various information. And now you can see here that it's going to go out. It's using the batch mode for parallel orchestration. So this information you're seeing here is basically telling the system how it can interact and use the system. So now it becomes a self-orchestrating system. It can knows what my Spark is, specification,